Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're completely setting aside all those Hollywood myths and jumping straight into the precise mechanics of the unseen spiritual world, exactly as they're laid out in Islamic source texts. We're going to be decoding the reality of Iblis, jinn, and magic. We're talking about how these hidden dimensions actually interact with our own on a daily basis. It's a deeply fascinating, highly structured framework, and we're going to break the whole thing down right now. Okay, let's dive into this. How do fortune tellers really get their information? It's a question that has fascinated humanity literally forever. Well, according to the foundational texts we're exploring today, a fortune teller's accuracy isn't just lucky guesswork or cold reading. There's actually a highly specific, hidden infrastructure at play here, and it involves those unseen beings known as the jinn. Section 1. The Unseen Information Network. It's basically cosmic espionage. And this brilliantly illustrates how the sources outline a very deliberate, almost military-style hierarchy for how fragments of unseen information actually breach our physical world. Picture this, a towering ladder of jinn, literally standing on top of one another, stretching all the way up into the heavens. Step 1. The angels speak in the clouds about divine decrees or future events. Step 2. These stacked jinn try to eavesdrop on that conversation. Step 3. A celestial projectile, which we see as a shooting star, often strikes the eavesdropper. But sometimes, just sometimes, they manage to snatch a single word of truth and pass it rapidly down the chain. Finally, step 4. By the time this stolen word hits the lips of a human fortune teller, the jinn has completely wrapped it in 100 lies. So this perfectly explains why a soothsayer might get one ultra-specific detail totally right, which then tricks you into believing the 100 lies that come right after it. Now, the source material is absolutely uncompromising about humans trying to tap into this network. Take this quote, for example. Whoever goes to a fortune teller and asks them something, their prayer will not be accepted for 40 days. That is a massive theological boundary. The texts actually go a step further, warning that if you genuinely believe what the soothsayer says, it's equated to disbelieving the Quranic revelation entirely. So it's not framed as just some harmless, foolish mistake. It's a critical, fundamental breach of faith. Moving right along to Section 2, the reality of magic. We're shifting gears here. We are moving from the passive act of trying to predict the future to active, malicious spiritual manipulation. In the Arabic texts, this is known as seer. Now, seer isn't defined as some cheap parlor trick or an optical illusion. It is categorized as a severe, tangible spiritual affliction. The texts treat magic as a literal weaponized force that requires hidden, forbidden knowledge. It almost always involves invoking the jinn and forces aligned with Iblis, who is the ultimate adversary in this theology, to cause real physical harm, sudden illness, or to totally destroy marriages and families. Now, what's really interesting about this is a foundational case study from the texts where Prophet Muhammad himself was actually afflicted by magic. The sources detail exactly how a spell was cast using his comb, some of his hair, and the sheath of a male date palm, and then it was hidden at the bottom of a well. The prophet experienced very real physical distress. His immediate response? He prayed continuously to God. Because of that absolute reliance, angels were sent down to reveal the exact location of this hidden spell. Crucially, this specific event triggered the revelation of two very famous chapters of the Quran, Surah Al-Falaq and Surah An-Nas, which were then recited to break the knots of the spell and cure him. For believers, this historical event serves as the ultimate blueprint for dismantling unseen attacks. Section 3. The Evil Eye Explained. Much like magic, the sources frame the evil eye as a very concrete reality with heavy real-world consequences. It is totally separated from mere folklore. In our source transcripts, it's frequently referred to by the Bengali term Buddha-Najor. It's defined as an affliction caused by the spiritual impact of intense envy, extreme admiration, or even just a lingering, unshielded gaze. The texts make a point of emphasizing that you don't even need a complex magical ritual to ruin someone's day. Sometimes just a look of deep, unchecked jealousy is enough to cause sudden physical illness, extreme mental fatigue, or even the complete collapse of a person's livelihood. But how does a look actually hurt someone physically? Well, to understand that, we have to look at the deep theological mechanics in the sources. They link the phenomenon of the evil eye directly to the ruh, or the soul. In this framework, your soul isn't just a passenger hanging out in your body. It's an eternal, infinite essence derived directly from the command of God. Because the ruh holds such immense metaphysical weight, its energetic projection, especially when it's supercharged by an intense emotion like envy, can actually breach the physical realm and slam into another person's reality. It is quite literally the power of the soul acting upon the material world. Crazy, right? Section 4. True healing versus fake healers. Let's move to and see how this builds a clear dichotomy for anyone seeking help. Having established that these unseen threats are very real, the source material draws incredibly strict boundaries around how you're supposed to solve them. On one side, we have ruqya. This is the strictly prescribed, permissible method of healing. It relies entirely on the open recitation of Quranic verses, prophetic prayers, and an absolute, unwavering trust in God. On the complete opposite side, the texts sound massive alarm bells against kobiraji, or forbidden quackery. This involves relying on amulets, often called tabis, hidden incantations, secret rituals, and acts of shirk, which means associating partners with God. The theology is clear here. These forbidden methods aren't just useless, they are incredibly dangerous acts that actively feed the demonic entities causing your problem in the first place. And there is this one wild, frankly terrifying anecdote in the sources that perfectly illustrates this danger. They detail a case where a family, completely desperate to fix an affliction that was destroying a marriage, went to a supposed healer. This fake healer instructed them to take a piece of a grave shroud, a kafan, write an amulet on it, and then literally perform an act of adultery over it, claiming this was the only way to break the spell. This horrifying example is used to show exactly how fake healers utilize the very same demonic, Iblis-aligned magic they claim to be curing. It ultimately completely destroys the patient's faith. Which brings us to Section 5, the prescribed cure. So instead of falling into the traps of these fake healers, what's the actual fix? The texts provide a highly detailed, incredibly accessible remedy for anyone facing these unseen afflictions, and it's called ruqya. Simply put, it's the active practice of treating illnesses, the evil eye, magic, and jinn afflictions purely through the recitation of specific Quranic verses and supplications directed solely to God. But what the sources heavily stress is that ruqya isn't a one-and-done magic pill. It's an active, ongoing lifestyle of establishing a spiritual shield and maintaining continuous reliance on divine protection. So the crucial point is that the sources completely democratize this healing process. You don't need to go find a mystic. You are heavily encouraged to just perform self-ruqya. The practical steps are laid out so clearly for anyone to follow. First, you recite Surah Al-Fatiha, followed by the 3 Quls, which are the chapters Ikhlas, Falaq, and Nas. Then you gently blow your breath onto a glass or even a bucket of water. You can drink this water or bathe with it to clear out those spiritual blockages. And most importantly, throughout this whole routine, you have to maintain complete, unwavering reliance on God as the ultimate healer. It's a beautifully empowering structure meant to bring real peace and spiritual clarity. We've covered a ton of ground today, right? From the eavesdropping networks of the jinn to the dark reality of sihr and iblis, all the way to the highly protective, empowering practice of ruqya. The texts we've explored today make one thing crystal clear. The unseen world isn't some distant fantasy. It's a very real dimension, constantly interacting with our own. Which leaves us with a pretty critical question to ponder as we wrap up. Are you actively safeguarding your spiritual reality? Or are you just leaving the unseen to chance? I really hope this explainer gave you some clear, structured insights into these fascinating texts. Keep seeking, keep learning, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.